Good morning, good afternoon, depending where you are. Welcome to our fall 2025 season of Microsoft Copilot. Now, we're going to be doing quite a few episodes of the latest and greatest of Microsoft Copilot, the things that you could do to make your job much more quick, much more efficient, and much more automated. We're going to be doing a series of episodes starting today. Episode 1, today is August 12th, 2025, and today's subject is, although it's not the latest topic of Copilot, it's an episode you're really not going to want to miss. This is pretty important, and it makes a huge difference in how you use Copilot in terms of prompting and getting better output. We're going to be talking about prompting like a pro, strategies for better Copilot results. My name is Jeff Lizerbaum. I'm a pre-sales solutions architect here at Managed Solution and looking forward to getting right into this. Now, a common question that we ask often to our customers is, if you had a magic wish, what would you like Copilot to do for you? And we get a lot of answers that vary from, hey, I just need a personal assistant to be able to organize my day and my schedule, all the way to, you know what, I need to stay on top of the latest trends and forecast budgets and flag any kind of anomalies there. Also, I need to stay up to date with compliance and stay up to date with all the regulations that constantly change around us. So there's things from automating my tasks and keeping me up to date as a personal assistant, all the way to really some high level and maybe even some complex automation there. The good news is that Copilot can really do this for any one of us, whether we're in marketing, sales, customer service, finance, for a data pro in IT, or an HR benefits advisor. So no matter what you do, Copilot empowers all of us. One thing I wanted to point out before we get into the actual prompting and the art of prompting is that there are different prompting experiences depending on if you're using the web or the work toggle. Here's what I mean. When you sign in with your Entra identity for your corporation, your work ID, your school ID with Microsoft 365, and if you're using the web toggle, you're going to be getting all of the benefits of commercial data protection, which is awesome. That's what Copilot is really built on, ensuring that any data that you're using within the organization is safe. And the knowledge that Copilot has really doesn't have any cutoff like other GPT or other AI tools that are out there for free. So that's the main differentiator with using the web. It has a lot of the resources that are up to date. On the flip side, if we use the work toggle, it's going to give you a slightly different experience because now when the work toggle is turned on, now you have access to all the data, not only on the web, but also everything internally that you have access to, such as your email, your chats, your calendars, documents, all of those things that are within your organization to really make the assistant come alive. So those are the two differentiators between the web and the work, depending on what you're trying to accomplish. So now let's talk about the art of prompting. Whenever we're trying to get a lot of information, a lot of bang for our buck in terms of prompting and getting the right amount of information we need, it's important to do prompting in the right way. Now, before I define what that right way is, there is really no right way of doing it, but there's definitely some best practices here. And there's going to be some things and key ingredients that are going to be at top of mind in order to get that best output. First off, let's tell Copilot what you need. Let's include the right prompt ingredients. That includes the goal, the context, the source, and expectations. And then let's keep that conversation going because Copilot has a pretty good memory of what you've been chatting about in that conversation. Now, before we dig in a little bit further, There are some things that you can explore on your own to try first. If you head on over to aka.ms, that's Microsoft's website in short, /Copilot Lab, you're going to see a lot of what you can try first in terms of prompting. So I encourage you to head over there, explore what you can do, whether you are using Copilot within Word, on the web, within PowerPoint, within Teams. There's a lot of use cases for issuing prompts. Now, number one, we always want to tell Copilot what you need. So I want to be able to summarize a task. I would like you to edit this sentence in email and try to be pretty descriptive of what you're asking so that you could get better output. Next, include the right prompt ingredients. So when we're prompting, we want to put in the right elements in order to get the right output. It usually starts with a goal. What do you want Copilot to accomplish for you? For example, generate 3 to 5 bullet points. What is the context? Give Copilot the background story of why you're doing this prompt. The fourth ingredient is the source. It's important to tell Copilot where to go in order to get this information. There might be some specific documents that are internal, or there might be some web resources that you would like it to tap into in order to provide some better output. And finally, the expectations. Tell Copilot how you would like that output served to you. Do you want it to be in simple language? Do you want it to be in table format? There's quite a few ways of how you would like Copilot to define what to expect as the outcome. And finally, keep the conversation going. Remember, Copilot understands the context of the conversation as you're prompting it along to get further information. So you don't need to re-prompt it or reissue the same exact prompt over again. You can go ahead and just continue the conversation so that it can build upon the information that you're retrieving. One thing to note is that you might see a little note in the chat that says memory updated. It simply means that Copilot is keeping tabs on what was discussed from the prior session. So let's dig right into the prompting writing best practices using the ingredients we just discussed. We're going to take a look at some examples here and do a little comparison. And as a bonus, I'm going to show you some of the ways that you can do file comparisons using Copilot. Now for prompt 1, it says, tell me how the seasons affect investing. So there's not really any ingredients that I could really tell other than maybe it's a goal that you want to try to get out of it. So typically that is something that everyone does. They just want a very quick prompt to try to get a very quick response, but that response might not be enriched enough and enough detail for what you really need to get out of it. A better way and a better approach to do this is to give it the goal. So in this case, I want to understand the different times of the year that affect investment opportunities. Give it the next ingredient, which is the context. I work in an investment firm. We're looking for information of how seasonal changes impact where people spend money and how that influences the market and all of that area. And it's even further broken down into the context of different areas that we're looking into to get this information a lot more complete. For the source, we're asking Copilot to go out the past 10 years on the web, try to citate the information, try to choose the best sources that it can. Now, that's going to be very subject to what is considered the best source, and that's why Copilot is very good at citations. And finally, the expectations. I'd like a simple to understand in layman terms report showing the breakdown of the seasons and the strong and weak and all the indicators and patterns of what I'm trying to get. So this is a very complete prompt. And what we're going to do is I'm going to show you the comparison between prompt 1 output and prompt 2 output and how Copilot kind of deciphers them. So let's take a look at those comparisons next. So in this example, what I'm going to do is I'm going to issue that first prompt. Tell me how seasons affect investing. And we're going to see what the results are. And it gives us quite a bit of information, not too bad. I'm going to copy that into a Word document and I'll save it in my OneDrive. And what we're going to do is we're going to rinse and repeat, although now we're going to use prompt 2 and let's paste that in there. And let's just make sure it has all of the details. And what we'll do is let's run it and see what the results are. So prompt 2 is running. Definitely, you can already see it takes on kind of a different format. It's doing quite more, actually. There's images that are coming alive. There are other things that it can be included because the prompt is perhaps a little bit more specific in this nature. So let's go ahead. We'll copy this into a Word document and save it as our prompt 2 document. Now, once that's done, I'm going to show you a really cool trick that you can do here as well. So both OneDrive and SharePoint have the ability to use Copilot within those tool sets on the web. And if I selected prompt 1 and prompt 2 that I just created, I have a couple things I could do here with Copilot. I can summarize them, but in this case, I'm going to compare the files. Let's see what the differences are between the two prompt styles. And finally, I'm going to ask it a question. Now, this is very much subjective, but I want to ask Copilot, based on these results here, based on the differences between the two documents, which one would you choose? Especially if I was going to be presenting this to, say, like investment customers who want to get information from our website or some general information for that. So what we definitely see is that prompt 2 is the preferred one. It's because the prompt was more detailed. Another useful tip is structuring the prompts. And what I mean by this is mixing up the order of the ingredients a bit. Copilot loves the information when it's put last. It emphasizes that. So in this case, prompt 1 is just like we've always done it. Goal, context, source, expectation. But what happens if we created a different prompt where we put the goal last? So what I did was a very similar thing where I created the prompts, I got the results, and I put them in Word documents. And I'm going to compare them to see what those results are. So let's see what happens when we actually select them and we run a question to see, hey, which one would be preferred? So I asked it the question there. Let's see what Copilot likes better. Now, Copilot doesn't necessarily have a preference here. What it does say is that prompt 2 might be a better choice due to its thorough coverage. And the reason is because we put the goal as the last thing. So it emphasized getting us the goal from that order and the structure that we did. Now, one other tip is that when you're providing prompts, you want to provide very specific instructions. And a very good use case example is to either include or exclude content from your prompt. So in this case, I want to look up the top tourist attractions in Southern California, but I don't want to include Disneyland. What's funny is that Copilot actually specifically says we are going to exclude Disneyland from the prompt, and it's going to give me, other 3 options there. So you can see that prompting in Copilot, there's different outcomes based on the ingredients, what you're giving it, the order of things that you're doing, and also how you include or exclude certain items from the prompt. I hope you all got some knowledge out of this on how to prompt better using Copilot. The practices of doing a quick prompt, that's okay, but when you put in those right ingredients and give it the right order, the outcome is quite different and you get a lot more out of it and it actually saves some time. Later on in the episodes, we're going to be talking about how to save your favorite prompts in notebooks for easy access and how to save them on the fly so that you can pull them up later very quickly. Now, before we leave to take some audience questions, I'd like to point out that we do Microsoft Copilot adoption programs quite often. And what you get from these is, first of all, sitting down in our pre-sales capacity, understanding what your needs are, and seeing what Copilot can do and how it could be a good fit for your organization. We also dive into several of the aspects of Copilot in terms of maintaining security and compliance and how to structure your environment accordingly so that using AI is responsible and it's safe. But with that said, let's go ahead and we'll take some questions at this point, and thank you very much for attending.